Hello everyone, this is lesson 12. If you recall in lesson 11, we left the person standing there naked. The person with his man and his woman side had eaten, that is, they enjoyed the dark experience. For the first time, they knew what it meant to do something that was bad. Okay? Now, their eyes are opened because now they can decide if they want to do that again. But they feel naked. If you can recall, in that last lesson, I talked about manipulating a young man and him coming to me with almost tears in his eyes because he felt betrayed. I stood there naked. I had a choice. I could cover up my nakedness by lying to him again. I could cover it up by pretending that it didn't happen and walking away. I could cover up my nakedness in countless ways, really. But I chose to remain naked by apologizing and by paying him. Now, we have to, at this point, with the woman and the man in the Garden of Eden, actually with the one person, with the male and female side, let's see what they do with their nakedness. So if we read from Genesis, we said, after they ate the fruit of darkness, the eyes of both of them were opened. They had free choice. And they knew their nakedness. Therefore, by sewing fig leaves together, they made themselves aprons. In other words, they covered up their nakedness. When we put on a false self, we cover up our nakedness. All right, now let me show you, let me read you some examples. And you see, if you can find in these examples, there's a fig leaf, which is a false self. If you were to identify with your wealth such that it made you feel superior or inferior to somebody else, are you identifying with your core self and with the core self in others? Or are you putting on a fig leaf, a false self, to make yourself feel good in relationship to others? A fig leaf is the latter. When you put on a false self to make yourself important in relationship to others, that's a fig leaf. Let's suppose that you choose to identify with your religious beliefs. When you identify with your religious beliefs and make them so important that you would defend and promote them, and that you feel superior to others because you live them, and you think that others are sinners because they don't live them, are you being yourself? Are you valuing the core self in others? Or are you being a false self? And of course, it's the latter. When we identify with anything other than our core selves, we're not being that little baby. We're being false to what we really are. Let's suppose that you identify with your race, and that makes you feel superior or inferior to somebody else. Are you being real, or are you being a false self? And of course, it's the latter. You've put on a fig leaf. Let's suppose that you identify with your appearance, and your appearance makes you feel inferior or superior to somebody else. Are you being yourself? Are you valuing yourself? Do you feel you're worthy just because of who you are? Or are you putting on a false self to be worthy in the eyes of others? And of course, it's the latter. That's a fig leaf. Let's suppose that you think you're important because of your title. For example, you're called Reverend in your church, or you're called Mr. President. And you identify with that, and that becomes important to you. to your identity, and you're offended if anybody doesn't respect that. Have you put on a fig leaf? Of course. You're not being you, and you're not respecting other people for being exactly like you. We're all, at the soul level, divinely the same. Let's suppose that you identify with your political beliefs, such that other people say you're ignoring facts that are contrary to your beliefs, you're distorting facts, you make up facts, you get angry when people disagree with you, you get angry when people disagree with the politicians that you support, you put down other people of other political parties. Are you identifying with your core self and the core self of others, or is that political party and those politicians become your fig leaf? Of course, it's the latter. Let's look at what Jesus said. Remember, he said that the model that he looks to for the goal of the way of the soul is a tiny child. Remember the poem where he says, a man of maturity looks to a child for the way to live life. And he models himself on that child. Jesus calls a false self a garment. And here, I'll read this poem about a garment is a fig leaf. Jesus said, when you should just strip yourselves naked without being ashamed, and you take your garments and you put them on the earth under your feet, like those little small children, and you trample them, then you will peer upon the son or daughter of he who lives, and you will come to be afraid not. That's a very powerful poem. Wisdom poem. It's from the Gospel of Thomas, number 17. So people are asking him, what does it mean to be evolved on the way of the soul? And he answers them, when you should strip yourself naked without being ashamed. In other words, when you can walk around and be yourself without identifying with any fig leaf, any false self, and you're not ashamed. You're not ashamed when people laugh at you. You're doing what you are soul told to do. You're a Joan of Arc. You're not living up to the expectations of others. You're living up to what you're being told by Spirit. So when you should strip yourself naked without being ashamed, and you take your garments, you take those false selves, and you put them on the earth under your feet. To put garments on the earth is to bring them into consciousness, reflective consciousness. Under your feet, under what you stand on, under your principles, like those little small children, and you trample them. In other words, when you see that those false selves are destroying you and destroying your relationship with others and destroying the planet, really, we all impact everybody, and you trample them, then you will peer upon the son or daughter of he who lives. Okay, when you remove all your false selves and live in innocence, then you will see that you are divine, that you are the son or daughter of God, of the Spirit. And then his last paragraph, and you will come to be afraid not. A person who walks around naked without being ashamed cannot be hurt by others. You don't have anything to defend. You have nothing to promote. You are just you. You can belong to a political party, you can belong to a religion, but as long as it's not you, and you can walk away, you can make decisions without being influenced, you won't be afraid. When we have to promote and defend our false self, that's when we're going to be afraid. We're always going to be looking over our shoulder. That's when we're going to be worried. So to be in stillness, to be in oneness with ourselves and others, to be all that we want to be, it's a matter of removing our false selves. Here's an image of the soul way and the mind way. On the soul way, notice the person is nothing but the single eye and single ear. You're just single. You're one with yourself. All right? On the mind way, notice all the blocks of false selves that we build up. The way of the soul on the left is the way of getting rid of those false selves. The way of the mind, which is the way of society, is to build false selves. And as we build them, we build worry and anxiety. We become what we don't want to become, and then we suffer terribly. Let's watch what Jesus says about that. A woman named Mary said to Jesus, "Your disciples, they resemble whom?" Jesus responded, "They resemble small children dwelling in a field, which is not theirs. When they should come, namely the lords of the field, they will say this, 'Release our field back to us.' And they will strip naked in their presence so that it be given back to them." So let's take this step by step. So a woman named Mary said to Jesus, "Your disciples, they resemble whom?" What are your disciples like? Those on the way of the soul. Jesus responded, "They resemble small children dwelling in a field." Now, what that means is a small child is himself. He's dwelling in a field. A field is a zone of influence. So it could be a workplace. It could be a family. It could be a church or a synagogue. It could be a Facebook group. But when you're in a field, it says, dwelling in a field, you're among people who may or may not be little children. Then he says, you're dwelling in a field which is not theirs. So that's clearly, you're in a workplace in which people are phonies. They're walking around promoting and defending false selves. So you're trying to be real in a field that doesn't feel right. When they should come, now they are the authorities. Okay, you're in a religion, and you're deciding to make decisions for yourself based on what you hear from Spirit. When they, the authorities of the church, which could be the deacons, they could be the rabbi, they could be the minister, the priest, when they should come, namely the lords of the field, those who are holding authority over others, who are saying you're right or wrong if you believe this or you don't believe that. That can be true in a political party or in a church or in any group. They will say this, "Release our field back to us." Let's suppose the lords of the field are the clergy in a church. And they're saying, conform. Release our field back to us means conform. Stop distracting people. Stop taking people, being a false model. The people who are single, the people who are the disciples on the way of the soul, the people who are listening to Spirit, they will strip naked right there in their presence. They will say, no. My allegiance is to Spirit. My allegiance is to being me. My allegiance is to being all that I was meant to be. And they were stripped naked in their presence so that it be given back to them. In other words, if you want to live a false life, building your life around dogma, political dogma, religious dogma, work dogma, go ahead. Stuff your face with it. Choke. They will, so the bottom line is, and they will strip naked in their presence so that it be given back to them. And they will suffer because they've got divine life, simple, a person that's beautiful, a Joan of Arc right in front of them, and they're rejecting that model. And they will choke on it. I'm going to give you some examples and ask you what you would do. Let's suppose that at work your boss gave a client misleading information. The client pulls you aside and asks you to clarify the information. What are your choices? One choice is to be faithful to the boss and to lie, and the other choice is to be naked and perhaps be fired. What would you do? What would Joan of Arc do? That's what it means to be on the way of the soul. Let me give you another example. Your friend has lied to another person. That other person asks you if what your friend said is true. What are you going to do? Are you going to be naked and say what's true and lose your friend and offend your friend? Or are you going to dodge in some way? I'm bringing these up because putting on fig leaves and choosing to be on the way of the soul are important decisions. But here's another one. You have been very religious. However, now you have been led to follow Spirit's guidance. Even when it disagrees with your religion, with your tradition, with your family's ideas, with your friends' ideas. And they will be very upset if you start making the decisions that you're contemplating. What are you going to do? Because if you make certain decisions, you're going to be on the out, there's going to be tension in the family, tension in your church, tension with your friends, tension with all the people that support you. Are you going to be a Joan of Arc? Or are you going to put on a fig leaf? I gave you those examples because to be on the way of the soul demands that you destroy your ego. Jesus said this. Let me read one of his poems about that. When he should come to be destroyed, he will be full of light. When, however, he should come to be divided, he will be full of darkness. Okay, let me read it slowly. When he should come to be destroyed, when he should destroy his false selves and walk around naked and be real in every situation, he will be full of light. When, however, he should come to be divided between his real self and his false selves, he will be full of darkness. So we can look around at the people around us and we can see we can pick out which ones are light and which ones are dark. Those that are dark are living false selves. When we're dark, we're living false selves, and other people know it. Unconsciously, they know it. Here is the final exercise, and it's a very difficult one, and it's one that people on the way of the soul do every day. Look at your behavior in the last day or two and identify your fig leaves. What have you been promoting and defending rather than being your real self? When you were full of feeling inferior or superior to somebody, you had a fig leaf. You were defending and promoting a fig leaf. When you're full of worry and anxiety, you're defending and promoting a fig leaf. So we, on the way of the soul, are aware of our emotions. And when we're not in the moment, still in oneness with others and oneness with ourselves, we know that we are defending and promoting a fig leaf. Then it's a matter of sitting with Spirit and asking, what is this fig leaf that and how do I take it off? It's sometimes very difficult to take off a fig leaf. And, but Spirit, who knows us intimately, will gradually begin to reveal the steps that we need to take in order to release it. Sometimes it takes months. It'll take insights from a book, a movie we're watching, something, take an insight from somebody that casually says something and Spirit says, watch that. That is an insight that is intended for you to help you take off that fig leaf. So Spirit is continually talking to us, continually giving us the information so that we can be single and at peace and fulfilled in life. That's the end of the lesson. If you liked it, would you click on like below? You can put comments and your questions below. And you can always go to the website, www.7771.org, and you can read any parts of the book that you want, and be sure to sign up if you want emails from us. Thank you, and have a good day.